What is going on, everybody? Hope you're having a nice Dead by Daylight. I know I sure am. And today, I'm going to be giving you guys a map tier list. A tier list of how I feel about all the maps currently in the game, whether I think they're survivor or killer-sided, or balanced, or whatnot. This one's going to be probably end up being a fairly long one. So, put me on in the background, grab a bag of popcorn, a snack, a drink, whatever, and, sit back, relax, and we're going to talk about the maps in this game, most of which are not the best designed. I'm going to try to give a little detailed explanation about why I feel the way I do about each of them, but I don't want to go too crazy in detail, as I don't want the video to be, super duper long, but honestly, I'm probably going to end up rambling about some maps anyways, so it probably will end up being that long. As always, if you enjoy the content, remember to please drop a like, drop a comment, drop a subscribe. It really does support the channel and encourages me to make new content. The tier list I got here, I'll post it in the description below. I made it myself. It's updated to the most recent chapter, that being the night, as of this recording of the video. So, if you want to make you want to make this yourself, you want to make a version yourself, use my template here I made on Tier Maker, you're more than welcome to make your own tier list and share with your friends. The tiers we got here, I know we got a lot of tiers here, but I kind of felt this was probably the best way to organize it. We got the balanced tier. Obviously, those are the maps that I feel like are perfectly balanced between survivor and killer. We have slightly killer, slightly survivor-sided, killer-sided, survivor-sided, severely killer-sided, severely survivor-sided, and lastly we have the too much RNG category, which is for maps that I think just have too much randomness to really pin them down to really any of these categories. It can basically be any of these at once, and that's really going to be reserved for one map that comes to mind, maybe another one when we get around to it, but either way, let's jump right in. I'm going to try to do them in order. Pardon me. But I don't know if I ordered these down here in the order they're released or whatever. But anyways, let's get started. Anyways, first up, I want to start with Coal Tower, just because Coal Tower is nice and easy. Coal Tower is going to be balanced. It's pretty much a perfectly balanced map. I don't think many people disagree with this. Coal Tower is extremely well made. It is one of the first maps they probably designed for DBD, and they really just hit it out of the park on their first map ever. It's not too big, little small, but not too small, not aggressively small. Main building isn't oppressive for the killer. It's just right. It's got a decent window on it. It's got that upstairs, which you can utilize. The map has enough resources for both the killer and a survivor. Or I should say has enough resources for the survivor. Yeah, most people don't really have any complaints about Coal Tower. It is a really, really well-designed map for Dead by Daylight. I think my only complaint, and this is just a personal one, is I think it's a little boring. But like I said, that is completely personal. I'm sure a lot of people out there, Coal Tower is their favorite map, just because of how simple it is. Maybe the only, design issue with the map is for killer, since it's small, your totems can kind of be found pretty easily. But on the flip side of things, it's a smaller map, meaning you can pressure it a lot easier, get around the map easier. So it's kind of a neat, or it's kind of a fair trade-off, I should say. Yeah, Coal Tower, well balanced. Next we have Suffocation Pit, and the reason I didn't start with Suffocation Pit, even though it was the first map up to bat here, is because this is probably the only map I'm going to put into the too much RNG category. Suffocation Pit is extremely notorious for just brutal RNG. You can have some of the most cracked setups you've ever seen as a survivor. Jungle gym windows into jungle gym windows, into pallet loops, into jungle gyms. Or you could have the least amount of pallets ever on a map. I think there was one recorded where it was like 7 pallets total on the entire map or some shit like that. So really, this map can go either way. It could be your angle, or it could be your devil. I've been on the receiving and the giving end of Suffapit RNG, and I think everyone's been in that situation before. Usually the RNG isn't too bad. Usually it's kind of balanced out. It usually, I would say, sits somewhere in like this category, to be honest. But since there's like the possibility that the RNG is just, there's just a possibility you can get the craziest stuff on this map. I don't know what it is about it. Behavior needs to like curb the RNG on this map a little bit. Maybe make it so there's some fixed spawns. But who knows, man? I don't know what they did when they were designing this map, but it is nuts. Some objective things we can talk about. Main building, I think, is decent, but it's not too oppressive. It's not actually that bad, especially after you break the window. Or not the window, the breakable wall. I know that's a bit of a time investment, but it is what it is. Also, the side of the map with main is actually quite a bit weaker than the other side of the map. Shack, I would say, Shack side is probably the stronger side of the map for survivors. You have Shack there. You have pallet loops around Shack. Those pallet loops easily blend into the middle of the map where most of the tiles are located. As opposed to main side, where usually you can get like a hill spawn over there. You can get the log spawn. There might be some pallets over there. Usually there's some filler pallets around the main building, but they're not like pallet loops. They're like filler pallets, you know, auxiliary pallets, if you will. Nothing crazy. So I definitely think Shack side of the map is a little better for survivors than main side. If you're playing killer, unless once again you get some crazy RNG. It's usually a better idea to try to lock down main side, burn the pallets over there, and really get a like a 3 or 4 gen secured on that side of the map, and you'll be good to go. In terms of survivors, you know, assess what you got on the map, see what kind of suffocation pit you're working with, and then play from there. Like I said, safe bet is probably to favor Shack side for later. Keep the resources over there and try to break those 3 gens on either side and really crank through the generators, balance them out so you get a really split. If you can split Suffo Pit wide for the killer, where there's gens, you know, scattered around both Shack side and main side at the end of the game, that's definitely not a good look for the killer. I also wanted to say, I forgot to mention this in the beginning, in terms of like balance and what behavior should address, outside moving in is how I'm feeling. So like, obviously behavior should address maps that I list as, you know, severely killer sided or severely survivor sided first over killer and survivor sided, and then they should address those over, you know, slightly killer or slightly survivor sided. I think anything that lands in slightly killer, slightly survivor sided or balanced is like perfectly fine. They don't really need to touch it all that much. You know, I think it's okay to have some maps that are just, you know, lean a little bit to one side. It's natural. You're never going to have a perfect balance. But definitely anything on the outside tiers here is something behavior should address sooner rather than later. Next, we have Ironworks and Misery, and it's a little hard for me to rank Ironworks and Misery. Mostly because the map can be very, very dubious if the survivors are running one perk. I'm going to put it in survivor-sided. However, if someone has a boon totem, more importantly, boon circle of healing, as we all know how good that perk is, and you get the totem upstairs, and they put the boon on that totem upstairs, this definitely starts to lean into like a severely survivor-sided map, in my opinion. Some killers just cannot deal with that thing. So it can be pretty nasty. But regardless, I do think this map is very good for survivors. Chasing anyone to the top of Ironworks is a huge time waste. It's a lot of holding W, and in my experience, it always seems like they have the good window up there. And what I mean by them having the good window at the top of Ironworks is when you're chasing them, it doesn't matter if you're chasing them outside or inside, they will always have the window that's closer to them every single fucking time, man. I will be chasing a survivor up there, and I'll be like, all right, I'm getting close. I can get a hit here if they don't have the window that's closer to them, and they always get the fucking window that's closer to them, and they have to break the wall, and it's just a huge mess, man. It's top of Ironworks is super nasty. They also have that decent window downstairs as well. The pallets around Ironworks I don't think are anything crazy. That being the ones directly attached to main building. But you got plenty of resources to work with on this map. Shack usually connects to 2 tiles on the one side. It connects on the one side. On the other side, you got some pallet loops usually. Pallet loops into another tile. Typically into another pallet loop into another tile. So you've got a lot of resources on this map, and they're usually spaced out pretty well. I would say the big thing is obviously that main building really, really tips it up to being like a survivor-sided map. That window up there, man, is just nutty. It's nutter butter bites, dude. That shit is crazy, and you're gonna waste a lot of time if you go up there as killer. So I'd say try to avoid it. But if they keep taking you up there, then like there's not a whole lot you can do. But in general, definitely I feel like this is a survivor-sided map. I feel like I struggle a little bit on this map as killer. Maybe that's a personal thing. But regardless, we're gonna move on. Next we got Groaning Storehouse, and I'm gonna try to leave my burning hatred for Groaning Storehouse out of my opinion. I was like not rehearsing, but I was like thinking about how I wanted to rank these maps before I was doing this video. This was yesterday. And in my mind, dude, I was like, oh, Groaning Storehouse fucking sucks, man. Like, this map is so survivor-sided. I fucking hate this map. But I think I just have, like, a vendetta against Groaning Storehouse, man. I cannot stand this map. In general, I can't stand a lot of the Macmillan maps, to be honest, dude. I think Macmillan maps are overrated as fuck, dude. Outside of Coal Tower, which is obviously very balanced, I don't think the other Macmillan maps are actually that balanced. I think outside of Coal Tower, the other ones are not well designed. But the issues with Groaning Storehouse, definitely a survivor-sided map. I'm just not sure if I want to put it up here, if I want to put it down here. Because, like, if I feel like I'm giving into my bias a little bit, I'm putting it up here. But if I maybe am thinking a bit more logistically, it's tough, man. Because the thing on Groaning Storehouse is, I think main building on this map is, if you chase main building a certain way, you're in for a fucking treat, dude. I don't know what it is about me, but main building, I think, on this map is really good. You've got 2 pretty decent pallets inside main. You have 2 decent windows. Groaning Storehouse is a map. You have the 2 cubbies, and what I mean by the 2 cubbies is you have those, like, you have, like, the little, like, cutouts on each side of the map, and they're, like, completely, they're like distance between each other. When you spawn in as killer, if you don't have Lethal Pursuer, man, or, like, Corrupt Intervention, and you go and check one of those cubbies for a spawn, and no one's there, dude, I feel like I just lose a generator because of that, because, like, I have to walk all the way around to the other side to get to the other cubby to see if they spawned over there. So I think navigating this map is just terrible, man. Navigating this shit feels so bad. I'm trying to think of maybe in terms of resources. I don't know, man. I think the map is pretty resource generous. I'm going to put it as survivor-sided. I think it's pretty resource generous. You've got, I think maybe the only thing is that tiles don't, well, no. Okay, on one side of the map, on the one cubby, there are 2 tiles that connect together usually, but on the other side, you usually have a tile log spawn or weird fucking water tower spawn into a tile. The tiles aren't connected directly over there, and the tiles usually aren't nuts to butts on this map, but you do have a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of pallets on this map. I feel like there are a pretty sizable amount of pallet loops on this map, plus the main building being really, really good with those good windows. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to put it as survivor-sided. Give in to my bias a little bit because I fucking hate this map. But, yeah, maybe not, like, the top here. I'm going to definitely, like, rank these, I think, to make this more cohesive to look at. Like, Ironworks, definitely more survivor-sided than Groaning Storehouse. So that's how we're, like, doing it. The more left you go, the more closer it is to, like, the tier above it. Next we have Shelter Woods. I think Shelter Woods is severely killer-sided. I don't think I need to like even think about that one. This map has no resources on it whatsoever for Survivor. It's one of the few maps where if you use a pallet, you feel like you're physically burning your resources really hardcore. You actually have to be really careful. You can get very, very low pallet spawns on this map, which is very unfortunate. Also, if you're really, really unlucky, in terms of tile spawns, maybe someone can confirm or deny this for me, but I still think the double window spawns, the new double window loop on this map currently is bugged. As far as I know, it is bugged in the map generation. And when the game spawns these loops, the game thinks that it has a pallet, and it counts it as a pallet loop when it doesn't have a pallet. And that's bad, because then the map starts to spawn things accordingly in terms of, it's eating your pallets, basically. You're basically getting a loop that the game thinks has a pallet, but doesn't actually have a pallet. So you're losing out on pallet spawns, which is really bad on a map like this that already is pretty scant for resources. It's also what I like to call a shack map. There are 3 shack maps in the game, and what I mean by that is they're pretty old maps that they don't have any like points of interest on them. They don't have like a main building. They just have shack on them. This one does have like the tree in the center, but that's not like a main building. It's a fucking object that's just is unique. But I don't like the shack maps. I think they're all not very well designed. I don't think they really fit the pacing of the game. I honestly, since we already have so many maps in this game, I think they should just remove them straight up. Like, does anyone like the other shack maps? Are Wrecker's Yard and Rotten Fields? Does anyone like these maps? Like, seriously, if you do, comment, tell me why. I really don't think any of these maps are balanced, and they're just all kind of poorly designed. So I think the developers should either adjust them somehow or just straight up remove them. We already have too many maps, so why not, cut off some of the fat? But regardless, just not enough resources on this map. The tiles don't really connect together. The middle is just a huge fucking dead zone. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Plain and simple. Next, we're moving to Azarov's workshop, thingamajig, whatever the fucking shit's called. I'm forgetting the name of the realm for some reason, but Wretched Shop. I'm trying to think. Honestly, it's slightly survivor-sided. I don't think it's that bad. I think maybe some people think this map is really bad. I don't think it's that bad. In general, honestly, since they did the visual rework on the whatever car mechanic realm fucking maps, I can't remember what they're called, dude. Autohaven, on the Autohaven maps. There we go. It came back to me. Ever since they did the visual rework on the Autohaven maps, I actually think these maps are mostly balanced. If not, they're actually kind of killer leaning sometimes, depending on what killer you're playing. Wretched Shop, I'd say, is slightly survivor-sided. There's nothing, I don't really think there's anything egregious about it. The main building can sometimes spawn the window on the side that has the breakable wall, which does mean you have to break the wall if you want to deal with that window. Sometimes it doesn't, though. Sometimes it spawns on the other side and you don't have to do shit, and you just have to walk around it. That main window, too, is really just okay. It's nothing crazy. It doesn't connect to anything, really. If you're taking it inside-outside, or inside to outside, it can sometimes connect to, like, a auxiliary pallet. But, if you're going outside to inside, it really doesn't connect to anything. It kind of, that whole main building is like a death trap, basically, if you pull it from the right angle. Loops don't really connect together all that crazy on this map. I think it's pretty well balanced. Honestly, I have no complaints about Wretched Shop. I'm never on Wretched Shop and I'm like, this map fucking sucks. I always feel like I usually have a good control over how the map flows, whether I'm playing Killer or Survivor. I do think it's a little Survivor-sided, just because there's always the... you can get some pretty good spawns on this map, definitely. You can definitely get some good spawns. You can get God Bus. God Bus can sometimes be next to like a pallet loop, and sometimes God Bus can be in front of a tile. And sometimes all three of those things can happen. So you can get some pretty nice spawns, and sometimes all three of those things can happen, and it connects to Shack. So sometimes you can get some solid spawns as Survivor, but nothing crazy. I'd say nothing cracked out. The map isn't really that big. It's like medium-sized, I think. At least it feels medium-sized. I don't have the the dimensions pulled up in front of me. So if I'm saying shit like, oh yeah, this map's like small or medium or big or whatever, I'm saying it off of size alone. Sometimes, like, some of these things I'm objectively saying, like the map is huge or whatever, you know, like Mother's Dwelling is fucking huge. I know it's huge. Like, I don't need to pull up a thing, but I don't know. Wretched Shop doesn't feel too big. So, Azarov's Resting Place. It's hard for me to judge this map because if the killer wants to play a certain way, this map can be really, really nightmarish for the survivors. There are 2 maps in the game that are designed like this. There's Azarov's Resting Place, and the other one is Sanctum of Wrath. And they're designed in this way that's essentially a dumbbell. Think of like a weight, a dumbbell where there's a middle, there's a straight shot middle, followed by 2 basically just like rectangular areas. And what this does is this creates this choke point design where usually there's only about 1 generator in the middle, and each side has a concentration of generators. This can be 3 or 4 generators on one side, making it fairly easy for the killer to lock down a 3 or 4 gen for the late game. So usually survivors have to do something to break that pattern when they're on either of these maps. The thing about this is the killer, if he wants to, can pick a side, especially if there's sometimes, like I said, you get 4 gens on one side. You could pick that side. You could down someone, hook them there, and then essentially play big camp mode. You could lock down, depending on where you know people are at. If you know the survivors are mostly on the other side of the map, they have to go through the choke point to actually unhook the survivor, which means that you can lock down that area pretty hard and essentially like big global camp someone. You could like camp someone from by just standing. Like if you know all 3 survivors are on the opposite side of the map, you can camp someone by standing at like the choke point and essentially blocking people out from getting them for free. Obviously not everyone plays like this. I understand that. Usually the killer-sided maps in this game, outside of a few of them, require the killer to play a bit in like kind of a nasty way to really utilize the advantages they have. Where a lot of the times these survivor-sided maps just reinforce or support survivor gameplay essentially. And that's fine. Like that's not like an issue. That's just like the design of the game, right? But Azarov, I'm going to put it as killer-sided just because the middle doesn't really, the tiles don't really connect. They kind of do. There's like some tiles in there. There's like 2, I think, usually, right? If I'm thinking correctly, maybe 2, maybe 3. But they don't connect all that well because it's like kind of pointed vertically. Sure, sometimes you can get like a nasty spawn. And, you know, maybe a window goes into a window. But due to how this map is laid out, man, it just doesn't flow as well for the survivors, in my opinion. I think it definitely is, the layout of this map benefits the killer a lot. You can play very territorial on this map, pretty much. So that's what I think it really comes down to. And, you know, resource-wise, it's not the craziest in the world. The tiles are concentrated in the center, and outside of that, you get, like, 1 tile on each side, followed by, like, you know, filler pallets. You do get the... And I forgot to mention this about Wretched Shop, too. You get the fucking, not only do you get bus, but on all these maps you get bus, and you usually get the thing, the crane, whatever it's called. The crane, the really good loop that has the window and the pallet. That's like the fucking mechanism thing, crane, whatever. I don't know what it is. You know what I'm talking about, though. If you play the game, you know what I'm goddamn talking about. They all have that thing and the bus, so those are always a good boon for survivors. But yeah, even with that, I do think this map is a little killer-sided. Definitely killer-sided. Gas Heaven. A lot of people have an issue with Gas Heaven, and it always comes down to the car walls. The car walls can be really nasty, and I'm not denying that, but I don't think Gas Heaven is, like, all that crazy. I am going to say it's slightly survivor-sided. I do think it is. Maybe probably a little more survivor-sided than Wretched Shop. But I don't think it's that cracked out. I don't think it's, like, you know, that insane, that out there. You know, I think it's, for the most part, well-designed, especially after... One of the big reasons Gas Heaven used to be a fucking pain in the ass is first of all, pre visual rework, those car walls used to be way bigger. I swear to God, those car walls definitely were bigger, dude. They were definitely bigger. Not only that, but old Object of Obsession used to be a huge pain in the ass on this map, dude. Old Object of Obsession, if someone had it and they were past the car wall and you were on the other side, that dude was basically in a fucking another whole area. Like, he was gone. You were never getting that guy. He had wall hacks on you, and yeah, you had wall hacks on him, but it was never going to work out for you. There's so much distance you have to cover by basically holding W at someone. So yeah, the car walls can be kind of nasty, but I don't think they're too bad. And loop-wise, the map isn't like that crazy. The stuff connects kind of normally. There's a decent amount of resources. I just got done saying that like every one of these maps has bus and it has the crane. This map definitely does not have the crane. It's something I never realized about this map for some reason. But I'm pretty sure... Oh, dude, man. Why am I forgetting shit? It's late at night, man. I should not be making this video. But I don't give a shit. Does this one have bus? I don't think this has bus either. Huh. Shit, man. This one doesn't have bus on it. Why does this one not have either of the, like, auto haven loops? That's, like, really crazy to me. And it doesn't have either of them. I think it's the only one like that, right? I know Azerovsk has it. I know Wretched Shop has it. I know Blood Lodge and Record Yard has them. Yes. Yes, they do. They definitely do. Huh, so this is the only one that doesn't have them. The fact that I just thought about that, I'm going to actually move it lower than Wretched Shop, because I do think those loops are really, really good for Survivor. And the fact that you don't get them on this map does make it a little better for Killer. But still, I do still think it's slightly Survivor-sided, just because of the layout of the map. It can be kind of hard to navigate as the Killer. Main building is kind of a little funky, too, actually. Main building can be a death trap for the survivors. You know, you can lock them in that back room, basically. But the window there is pretty good. There's a pretty solid window, I'd say, in that building. And the pallet there, too, I think is deceptively good. Not the one in the garage, the one in the store. In the convenience store, that, like, pallet by the shelves or whatever. That one's deceptively good, man. Like, people, if you can play that pallet really well, that pallet is nasty, bro. You can really fucking, you can break a killer's ankles on that shit, I'm telling you. I've done it myself. So, yeah, I do think this one's a slightly Survivor-sided. Wrecker's Yard. Wrecker's Yard is ooh, do I put it above Shelter Woods or not? Nah, dude, you actually have resources on this map as Survivor, but this thing is very killer-sided. I know I just got done talking about how Bus and the Crane are really good Survivor loops, okay? But hear me out on this one. On this map, this is another one of those shack maps. And on Wrecker's Yard, this map is really small, and shack is right in the center. And because it's a shack map where there's no points of interest, no buildings or whatever, basement is always in shack, and it's always in the center of the map. And because of the size of this map and the fact that it's actually really not that big, the killer can basically get to basement from anywhere. If a killer wants to, and they hook you in basement, and they're really good at playing, if they're a killer that's decent at playing basement, they can hold that basement the fuck down, dude. You're never, ever saving someone. If they want to play around basement, you're never saving someone out of that basement without trading. Like, especially if shack pallet's down. If shack pallet's down, you're never saving someone out of that bitch without trading. The killer can basically get the basement from anywhere. If they have Agi, they can pretty much carry you to the basement from wherever they want. If they have Agi and Iron Grasp, I'm solely convinced they could probably take you to basement from anywhere on the map. All the loops are really low wall loops, so there's not a whole lot of mind games to be had. They're also not great pallet loops, in my opinion. They're like pretty mediocre. A lot of the filler pallet loops. Tiles don't really connect together all that well. Like I said, you get Crane, you get Bus, but I think Crane is in a really weird part of the map usually. It's like fucking hanging out in the corner somewhere. Not really like connected to anything, so it's like kind of a weird loop to actually access. But yeah, is Crane... Dude, I'm forgetting, man. Is Crane on this map? I'm starting to think that maybe Bus is the one that's in the corner. Either way, this map doesn't connect very well, and even the really good loops, the good structures the survivors could have, are not, like, they're not in good spots that are based off. Like, they're not connected to anything, really. So yeah, man, I know a lot less about the Autohaven maps than I thought I did. At least about, like, what fucking, like, god loops are on them and shit, man. I'm feeling a little weird. But no, I do stand by my opinion about all these. That they're pretty... they definitely fit into this bill. You can play these maps based off of how I've ranked them. Blood Lodge. I don't really dislike Blood Lodge. I know some people have a burning hatred for Blood Lodge because of what Blood Lodge used to be. I don't mind it. Main building can be a little obnoxious. Or can be pretty good for Survivor, is what I'm saying. Yeah, Blood Lodge. This map's pretty big too. I think this map's deceptively big. Like, you don't think it's that big, and then you actually walk across it as killer, and it feels like it takes you a really long time to get places. Yeah, it definitely feels like it takes you a bit to get where you're going. I'm debating either putting it at the top of Slightly Survivor Sided or at the bottom of Survivor Sided up here. I'm going to leave it at Survivor Sided. I'm going to say it's the bottom here. Just because, like I said, the map's kind of big. I know for a fact this one has both spawns on it in terms of Bus, and it's got Crane. And those things are actually in decent locations to, like, access as Survivor. Like, you can actually loop into them and shit. And I know there's, like, a tile that connects... You have a tile that connects directly to Shack. And Shack usually connects to some filler pallets. So that's not, like, a terrible thing. Main, the pallets around Main, not bad. They're not too bad. The more I'm talking about it, the more I kind of want to put it at the top of Slightly Survivor Sided, actually. Just because you can get some really shitty spawns outside of Shack when I'm thinking about it. You can sometimes get that hill out there that just takes up a bunch of bullshit, and you basically don't really get that much around Shack. Sometimes you can get a pretty decent amount of stuff around Shack, but if a hill spawns right outside Shack, then it's not good. I do think, you know, this map is big, and there are some decent tiles in it, but I don't think it's too crazy to play on as killer. I do think the size of it could be threatening, and as always with all the Autohaven maps, man, some killers tear it up on the Autohaven maps. Range killers, dude, it's all over, man. If you're playing against, like, Huntress on Wrecker's Yard, dude, you are fucked. You are 100% boned. All the low wall loops on these maps really, really benefit certain killers, and really just benefit killers in general, I think, in my opinion. You can nail down the survivors a little better. It makes it a lot harder to actually rotate away from loops than it does on certain other maps. Okay. Now that I've stumbled my way through ranking the Autohaven maps, we can rank the farm maps, which I really like. I honestly like the farm maps. I have a soft spot for them for some reason. Torment Creek. This one, honestly, I don't know why. I dislike playing on Torment Creek as a killer. As Survivor, I really enjoy it. As killer, I feel like Torment Creek fucks me up, man. I don't know why, dude. It feels so spacious and spread out, and it feels like it takes me forever to, like, walk to people. I'm gonna put it as Survivor Sided. The main building is pretty decent in the terms of that window. If you end up chasing it the wrong way, it can be really annoying. The pallets around main building can really, really assist with that too. Those auxiliary pallets can really help out with making that window a lot worse than it actually is, especially if for some reason the killer decides to not break them. I think this map is good. It's got cow tree on it. shack is in a decent location in the map. Stuff connects to shack. There's not a whole lot that connects to main building, admittedly, so that's a boon for the killer. There's corn on the map, which any map with corn on it, I feel like it gets a bonus to the survivors, because survivors can really, you can corno vision the killer for sure on any of these maps. But yeah, Torment Creek I do think is a little survivor-sided. And it just feels so big. I don't know why it does. I don't know if it's actually big. It feels super big to play on. It feels chunky, dude. This shit feels chunky to play on. Rancid Abattoir. Rancid Abattoir... pardon me. Rancid Abattoir... I really like playing on Rancid Abattoir. I like it a lot. I like this map. I don't know why. It's a very solid map. I feel like I have a lot of funny moments on this map. I know that's weird. I feel like whenever I'm in main on this map and people are running around that like the aisles and shit, I always feel like some bullshit's going down, man. I always feel like there's something stupid happening in main building on this map. I don't know why. I don't know. I think this is probably the... Oh, sorry, I'm yawning. I think this is probably the best designed farm map of the bunch. The corn isn't like too obnoxious to deal with as killer. The main building can be a little chunky. I will admit, it's got some good windows. I think it's got the 2 windows, and it's got some decent ones. If you pull them from a certain angle, that's a lot of time you're wasting as killer to walk towards them. As survivor, it gets you a lot of distance. You got the tractor on this. You've got cow tree on this. Cow tree actually connects to a lot of shit on this map too, actually. That's something that's really good about this map for survivors, is cow tree is usually surrounded by 2 tiles. And I mean, depending on what tile spawns you get there, that could be real nasty for the killer. Not only that, but the 1 tile actually loops in the shack. The more I'm talking about Rancid Abattoir, the more I'm definitely thinking it's a little survivor-sided. But it's a little small, though. I think the main reason it feels better to play on is because of it's small. And a lot of those resources, while they are connected together, they're very clumped. They're very, there's a lot of clump. And outside of the tiles they get, there's not really, like, a lot of filler pallets. Most of like the junk pallets, they're junk pallets. They're shit you can deal with as killer really easily. So outside of the tiles and whether or not they connect, or them connecting to like shack and shit, it does depend a lot on if those tiles are really solid. If they get like some like TL walls and shit, then it definitely makes the map a lot better for the killer. But if you get like jungle gyms and stuff, it makes it way better for survivor. I'm gonna put it in slightly survivor-sided. I definitely think it's more survivor. I think it's definitely a little less survivor-sided than Blood Lodge. I think Blood Lodge is just a little bit more survivor-sided. Like we're like splitting hairs at this point with this shit. Thompson House. Again, I think Thompson House, after the rework it had, is not as annoying to play on. Main building can be weird to navigate, and sometimes you can get a really, really weird spawn where, like, how there's the patio, like there's the front porch, and you have the railing, and it goes into the window with the breakable wall. Sometimes that railing, man, is thick AF, dude. Like, it's like a Lampkin Lane, old school Lampkin Lane fucking bush wall, basically. Like, that shit goes all the way around sometimes, which is super fun when you're playing Survivor. It gets you a lot of distance. Upstairs main is kind of tough, man. You get that weird window next to the gen, which if you're doing that gen, you can vault to the inside, but I feel like that doesn't really get you a whole lot. Even vaulting from the inside to the outside, the killer just breaks the wall, and I mean, you're not like, you're in a weird position, so you're probably getting hit anyways. There's Cow Tree. Cow Tree exists on this map. That's pretty cool. Cow Tree's in kind of a weird spot on this map, though, man. Cow Tree does not connect to like anything on this map. Cowtree is just kind of like out in the open. So Cowtree is just what it is. It's not Cowtree plus something else. It is just Cowtree. Yeah, I don't think this map's too bad. I don't think it's too bad. It's easy to navigate. I think there's a lot of corn on this map, though, which can kind of suck, depending on the killer you're playing as. But it's definitely not as much corn as a certain map we're about to talk about. So yeah, I don't know where to rank this one. I'd say like, maybe like slightly. It's definitely slightly survivor sided. Maybe like I don't know. Maybe like a little more than Rancid Abattoir. I'm trying to think. I would say probably, yeah, I'd say a little more than Rancid Abattoir. Just because on Thompson House there's actual like pallets. I feel like there's a lot more like filler pallets and shit that actually mean something on this map versus Rancid, where like there aren't as many of those filler pallets that actually like impact the gameplay as much. Next we have Round Fields. This is another shack map, and I've already said I hate these maps. This one is just open as fuck. If you're playing Blight on this map, I'm so sorry for you. You have nothing to bounce off of in this map. If you're playing Dredge on this map too, you got like no lockers to teleport to, man. That shit sucks. I think this map is just like boring for everybody though. There is just so much nothing on this map. I'm gonna put it as survivor sided just because of how much this map fucks certain killers out of their powers. And it is really, really big. But other than that, it is just so open, man. It's so open. There's corn everywhere. You can't see shit. This map sucks, dude. This map sucks. I don't even want to talk about this map anymore. It's not fun to play on. Even if it is survivor sided, I don't think it's fun to play on for anybody. Fractured Cowshed. Fractured Cowshed is our first severely survivor-sided map. That should not come as a surprise. This map is ridiculous. You can get some crazy spawns on this map. You can get some spawns that will blow your fucking mind, I will tell you. Just around Shack, you can get Shack into the lame pallet, that being the big pallet loop. You can get a lame pallet on each side, actually. And those lame pallets can both go into tiles. And, you know, obviously a little dependent on what the tile is, but still a tile you got to deal with. And those tiles can sometimes go, or the one tile can sometimes go into another lane pallet. And on the other side, the tile can go into like a normal pallet. Either way, this map is crazy, dude. It feels like shit just connects to more shit. Just when you think you're done, just when you think like, oh man, this guy has nothing else. There's no way. He can't connect this to anything else. It's like the game adds another tile for the survivor to connect a loop to. So yeah, there's just a lot of loop connection on this map. Main building's pretty good. That window's decent. That's two windows, actually. Both windows are pretty good. One window's really good. I'd say the other window's kind of decent. But both solid windows. And both of them connect to pallets that are pretty good pallets. Pallets that have an object connected to them that has an annoyingly chunky hitbox for both sides. I have been stuck on like the weirdest shit as killer and survivor on this map. Like there's little like hay bale things where it's like the cart and it's got the hay in it. There's like the little thing at the end that like you can just get stuck on that for like no reason. I don't know why. It's weird the way that's designed. But regardless, the map is very survivor-sided. I would say it's big boy survivor-sided. What else? Moving on. We got these maps. Disturbed Word and Father Campbell's Chapel. I'm trying to like pace myself here. It's been like 40 minutes of talking and I still have so many maps to go over. I hope I'm making sense with some of these. I'm like trying to go fast, but also like trying to get enough information out to actually form my opinion properly. Disturbed Ward. I'm a weirdo, and I like playing on Disturbed Ward. Even as someone who, like, plays a little bit more killer. But Disturbed Ward, man, this map's pretty survivor-sided. But I don't think it's as survivor-sided. I stand by it. This map is not as survivor-sided as people think it is. It still is. That main building is nasty. It is going to go, like, right here, even above Ironworks. But yeah, the main building, man, people will just take you back to that shit sometimes. And that main building is good. It's got 2 windows downstairs. You got the pallet downstairs. You got the pallet upstairs. You can have 2 pallets downstairs sometimes. I'm trying to think. In terms of other loops, you got the section with shack. Shack usually connects to... The shack connects to that funky Z-wall, and then that Z-wall connects to 2 tiles there, which is quite nice. You've got 2 tiles that are kind of in close proximity to main building that you can always loop back around to. And this map's filler pallets are pretty decent, I'd say. I'd say the pallets here are decent. Also, basement is really annoying to get to on this map for killer, which does make it a bit more survivor-sided. I don't know why. I feel like I have the worst time getting into basement if it's in main. If basement's in main, it's like a really weird basement to try to get into. I like don't like the layout of it. But regardless, this map is definitely carried by the fact main building is fucking crazy. I don't think much else on the map is like egregious, but main building is definitely really, really good. Even after you break the breakable walls. Which again, there's breakable walls for them. So you gotta spend time breaking it. But even after you break the breakable walls, main building is still very good, and survivors will very much take you back to main building when they can, and you should, because it's very strong. So if you're playing survivor on this map, milk that main building. Really milk it for all it's got. Do the gen there early, so that when you go back there, you're not interrupting people doing generators, and you're taking the killer to a spot where he's not really pressuring anything. That's another thing. The gens on that map are really spread out. It always feels like they're like really far apart, so you really can't get like a good lockdown for the end game. You can't get gens close to each other. They're always kind of got good distance between each other. Father Campbell's Chapel. Father Campbell's Chapel is going to take the grace, is going to get the reward of being another balanced map. This map, I don't think there's much wrong with it. It's got good resources. It's well laid out. It's not too big, not too small. Feels very much like Cold Tower, except it's more interesting. The main building's more interesting. Main building's got you can get some kind of nasty windows in main building that you can use for your advantage as survivor, or it is to your disadvantage as killer. But I don't think it's anything that crazy. With the size of the map, you often can get around very easily. You can pressure the generators kind of easily, and there's definitely stronger main buildings out there. Additionally, the whole area with Carnival, it's kind of like a weird area. There's not a whole lot going on there for the survivors, so as killer, the Carnival area is definitely a strong point for you. There's really only like some pallets out there, and Carnival Loop is not that strong. So yeah, just a very fun map, well designed. Don't know what they tapped into with this one for designing it, but it's very well balanced, and I do like it. Probably one of my favorite maps in the game, I'd say. I think, like I said, I'm a crazy person, and Disturbed Ward is like my favorite map, but I'd say Father Campbell's is a close second. I really like the aesthetic and the design of both of these maps. Next, we have Lampkin Lane. Now, if you've been wondering why, like, if you've been sitting here and you're like, man, more of these maps should be severely survivor-sided. What's he talking about? Don't worry, dude. We're gonna get to that, and it's gonna start really soon, because there's gonna be a lot coming up that are gonna be up here. And Lampkin Lane is one of them. I do not think that behavior actually accomplished anything with the Lampkin Lane rework. I do think they made the map visually look very good, but balance-wise, I don't think they actually accomplished anything. I think this map is still super fucking ridiculous, man. Like, I still think it's very, very strong for the survivors. And if people know it, if people know that, I think the thing is, not a lot of people know that. People are like, I got reworked. That's not as bad anymore. But, dude, there's some crazy stuff on this map in terms of windows. First of all, let's talk about, let's talk windows. In the one house, you've got this is, I think it's the Myers house. Yeah, it's the Myers house. You've got the window from the front porch going into the house. You've got the window on the front porch that goes to the side of the house. You've got the window on the back porch that goes to the back of the house that has a pallet out there. The side porch window can sometimes connect to House of Pain, which can sometimes be there if it hasn't decided to spawn on the other side of the map. If you do get the weird house spawn there, that's good for you as killer. If you're playing killer, not good for you as survivor. If you get House of Pain there, though, that's real nasty. It still has House of Pain. Kind of. Not really. Why am I calling it House of Pain? It's not House of Pain. It's like a weird thing. I don't know what to call it. It's like the motel, no-tell house. I don't know what to fucking call that, John. But it's got a pallet downstairs that's very reminiscent of House of Pain. That's a really good pallet. And it's got the pallet upstairs. That's also really good. I think it only sometimes can have the pallet up there. Regardless, on the other houses, you have the windows that often go out the back or out the side that are really good. One of them has a window up top that goes down below. That's really good. There's windows, man. This map's got windows. This map's got so many fucking windows, dude. They're all good. And I'm trying to think. The only benefit I think that killer really has on this map is basement is still kind of cool on this map. Like, basement's still pretty decent. Yeah, and I think that's it. They made before on Lambkin Lane. Now, granted, I do think they made the main buildings worse. I do think they accomplished that. I think the old Lambkin Lane main buildings were definitely worse than the new Lambkin Lane, buildings. But here's the addendum. But on old Lambkin Lane, I don't think the pallets were as good. On new Lambkin Lane, the pallet loops are a lot better in my opinion. Outside of like one or two of them, 1, 2, 3 of them, the pallets are pretty long. They're pretty long man pallet loops on this map. So I think it's kind of still. I think this map is basically still where it just is. Like, it's still just a really good survivor map. I just don't think people have realized that. Regardless, Pale Rose. Pale Rose is. I actually think this map is a little killer-sided. Pale Rose doesn't really have a lot on it, in my opinion, for the survivors. Boat is not that crazy of a main building. It's got like it's got a good pallet on it and an okay pallet on it. And it's got the window there, but the window also, is top down, so they sustain that fall damage thing. I don't know what else to call it, the falling stagger. It's a decent window, don't get me wrong, but it's not when you're looping forever. You're buying a little bit of time with it. The loops don't really, the like 1 or 2 tiles on the map don't really connect to anything. You do have docks. Docks can be good and can also not be good, depending on what layout you decide to get for docks. The map is kind of small, meaning the killer can get around fairly easily. And Shack doesn't really connect to all that much. Sometimes Shack can connect to Poglog, but Poglog is, it's okay. It is the Poglog, but I'm not gonna say it's okay. It's pretty good. Poglog is pretty good. It's very Pog. But obviously, Poglog do not maketh a map, and I do think that the killer's got some pretty good advantages on this map. Grim Pantry. This map is actually subject to a good bit of RNG. I have seen some Grim Pantries that have made the hair stick up on the back of my neck. Like, what fucking RNG am I getting? And I've seen some Grim Pantries that are just normal. I've had a Grim Pantry once that had, I'm not joking, it had 4, count them, 4, I'm going to say it again, 4 elevated generators. There was the generator in main, there was the generator in like the mini pantry building, and there were 2 generators on docks. I don't know what weird ass spawns I was getting there. I've had pantries as Survivor where there is nothing outside of the main building. There is jack fucking shit. There's a hill and literally nothing. It's just a huge dead zone in the center. Where'd the pallets go, man? Where'd the pallets go? Where's my loops? I got nothing. Now, granted, the buildings on this map are still good, so if you get screwed by, like, RNG there, you have docks, which is pretty solid. You have the mini pantry, which has 2 good... It's got 1 decent pallet below, and the pallet upstairs is pretty good because it connects to that window. You've got the 1 tile that's, like, okay. And the pallet loops on this map, when you get them, are pretty decent. And main building is very good. Main building is really good. That's definitely the kicker for this map, is that main building is quite attractive if you're a Survivor. You got that whole like throw down window loops up top. Very nice stuff. Connected by usually 2 okay pallets. Good stuff. Downstairs, you got 2 really good pallets usually. Pretty awesome. And you got the window down there. Usually. You got the window down there. If the window faces out towards the center of the map, that is better for you because you can take the window out into what is hopefully pallets out there and not fucking nothing. Like, I've seen it spawn before. Sometimes you get nothing. I don't know why. I don't know why you get nothing. I don't know where the pallets went. I'm adjusting my chair. If you can't tell, I'm adjusting my fucking chair because what the fuck is happening, dude? Okay, there we go. My fucking headphones were like caught under my my gamer throne. So yeah, sometimes you just get nothing. So I don't know where to put this. I don't want to put it in too much RNG because I do think even without the center spawns, you still have some decent stuff to work with. But even though without the center spawns, it's definitely like slightly Survivor sided. But I do think it's Survivor sided regardless. Those buildings, if used properly, can be very nasty. I've seen some Survivors loop them Johns for a whole lot of time. I'm thinking about where I want to put it, though. Where I want to put this shit. I feel like there's some organization that needs to happen around here. I do think... It's hard for me to judge because, like, I have more fun playing on Grim Pantry than I do Rotten Fields, but I gotta think objectively. Like, what do I think is harder to play on as a killer? Yeah, fuck, man. I'm still gonna rank Rotten Fields as more Survivor-sided because that shit's like, you fucking, like, lose half your power as killer half the time. Half the killers in the game lose their power on Rotten Fields, so, yeah, I think it'll stay right there. Leary's Memorial Institute. This is our first indoor map we're talking about. And after 2,000 hours in this game, I still only half know the design of this map. So that should tell you something about the fact that this map is confusing as shit. This map is whack, dude. This map is straight up whack. It's almost hard for me to even judge this map due to the fact that, like, I don't know. There's just so much going on, man. So much of it just looks the same. Windows into windows sometimes. Sometimes you get nothing. Sometimes you walk into a room and there's nothing in there. Sometimes you walk into a room, you get the fucking hospital beds in the palace. I don't know, man. This map is crazy. Like, if they wanted to capture, like, insanity in a map, I think Leary's is, like, a good... it's a good feeling of that. It feels like I go insane playing on this map. I'm trying to, like, measure. I'm trying to measure, like, because on one hand, it's so confusing, dude, that, like, even the best survivors don't know how to fucking navigate this map half the time. But on the other hand, there's some decent stuff on this map. You can get some pretty decent window spawns. But also, I don't know. It ain't balanced. Man, it's shit sucks. I hate judging this map because this map is so all over the place, dude. I'm getting like a headache thinking about this map. I'm gonna drop it as shit, man. I don't know where to put it. My heart's telling me like slightly survivor sided, but like my body's telling me like slightly killer sided because I feel like I usually win games on Leary's because people just don't know where the fuck they're going on this map. But also I feel like I've seen some pretty crazy stuff on Leary's. I'm gonna just put it on slightly survivor sided and leave it there. I don't want to talk about this map too much because it is just so hard to talk about. If I could say one thing about it, or one or two things about it, main, what I'm going to call is the doctor's office, that room, the library room that has reception outside of it, pretty good. That window there is good, depending on which one you get. Well, there's two windows there. The window next to the generator is always very good. The window in front of what could be basement, sometimes very good. It depends on how it's laid out, and it ranges from really, really good to just okay. I'm gonna say that if you get the version where it's the actual full reception and there's the window there, that's the version I think is better, because you can play a lot of games around that. And there's also that really good pallet that's attached to main, or attached to the library. Main is what I think is like all the TVs. That's what most people consider main. The TV room with all like monitors and shit, that room's okay. It's pretty decent. It's got those two windows. One of those windows can get completely cucked by the fact that basement stairs can spawn in front of it, but it's okay. It's solid. I'm just gonna say it's slightly survivor sided, if only for the fact that a lot of killers' powers get kind of screwed over on this map, as they do with really claustrophobic indoor maps like that. Mother's Dwelling, dude. Oh my god, Mother's Dwelling. I feel like I don't play on this map as much anymore. I feel like I don't get it as much, even like no matter what side I'm playing. I feel like I just don't. I don't roll this map very often. Mother's Dwelling. It's really big. Mother's Dwelling is absolutely huge, dude. Like, that map is fucking massive, man. If you're playing a killer that really needs the map to be small, or at least sizable, and you get Mother's Dwelling, it's never a good time. Main building can be really nasty, man. Main building has the window downstairs. It's got the window upstairs. It's got those chunky pallets on the side of main building, which can be very, very good. I do think the miniature version of main, which I'm calling, I don't know what to call that, like I don't know, I don't usually have a name for that. Mini main. Mama's Dwelling, I don't know, like the little Outback Steakhouse shack thing out there. That thing's pretty decent. It's got some okay windows on it. You got shack on this map. You got decent tiles. I think it's definitely survivor sided, if only for the size alone. It means you can really space out and not group up a lot. And I do think main on this building is very, very good. Temple of Purgation. Temple of Purgation isn't that bad, honestly. I don't think Temple of Purgation's that crazy. In fact, maybe I'm going to make a bold statement here. I do think the pallet loops on this map can be kind of chunky, but I'm going to say this is slightly killer-sided. And the reason being for that is that if you get the basement spawn in main building, that is nasty, dude. That's a basement in a basement. How the fuck is someone going to deal with a basement in a basement? That you can really lock down that basement if you actually want to play around basement on this map. And otherwise, the map isn't that crazy, in my opinion. The pallet loops are decent. The tiles aren't anything too out there. You know, they're normal. Yeah, I mean, I think the pallet loops are chunky, But they're also low wall loops, which can be really big and really important if you're a ranged killer of some kind. And none of them, they don't really connect well to a lot of other things. None of the tiles really connect together. I feel like this map is a little spread out, but it's not too big. It's a little sizable, but it's definitely not as big as like Mother's Dwelling. At least in like effective size of where you need to be. So yeah, I don't think this map's too bad. I think it's actually a little killer sided, just it's only slightly. Main building doesn't really I don't think it really is that crazy. Sometimes you can get that pallet that leads into main building that's like a super mega god pallet. Like you have to break that thing. Like you literally, it's blocking you from entering like the main part of the map basically if they drop that. But sometimes you don't even get that. So it's like, whatever, who cares? I'm gonna move on to the bad hams. The 5 of them. Holy shit. Okay. Let me lay something up about bad ham. The first, look, I don't care your logistics and whatever, like, oh, they're different. Like, no, the first 3 bad hams, they're the fucking same thing, dude. The first 3 bad hams are the same thing. Bad ham 4 and 5, basically the same thing. Bad ham 4 is slightly smaller, though, than bad ham 5. And both 5 and 4 are smaller than 1, 2, and 3. So I'm just going to rank them as 1, 2, and 3, and 4 and 5. And in general, they're pretty survivor-sided. First things first. You got House of Pain on this map. This map still has House of Pain. And House of Pain is nasty. It's mad nasty, bro. House of Pain is straight nasty. You got that pallet downstairs. You got the window upstairs. You got the 2 windows upstairs, actually. Sometimes you can get the weirdo House of Pain where there's the fucking breakable wall in the middle that cuts it in half. I don't know why that is. But that's a weird version of it. I don't like that version of it for either side. It just feels weird to navigate. You got the double story, one on top of the other, which has the double window upstairs, pallet on the side, drop down window into the pallet out front. Pretty good. And you got the side window downstairs, which is also good. You got main building. Main building has the fence window outside. It's got the usually 2 god pallets inside of it. The one thing main building can have, though, is basement. And if main building has basement, it's a real bad time for these survivors if the killer decides to play around it. It's another one of those basement inside of a basement type things. And if the killer decides to play around it, it can be mad nasty. But I do think 4 and 5 are slightly better for the killer. Slightly worse for the survivors, if only based on size. I would say if I had to rank them, 4 and 5 are kind of like only slightly survivor-sided. They're not too bad. Playing on 4 and 5 isn't as bad. I do think it's probably like, I don't know. Ordering these is getting harder and harder because most of this, like the distance between this stuff is like not that crazy. I'm gonna do like that, and 1, 2, and 3. I'd say they're really good. 1, 2, and 3 are gonna go right up here. Again, like I said, I don't care what logistics you have. 1, 2, and 3 are the fucking same, dude. 4 and 5 are the same basically. They should like cut these down to like 2 of these. Like, there's no reason to have 5 bad hams. It's the dumbest thing ever. The game, everyone's favorite map. The game is so boring, dude. Oh my god. I'm not talking about the game Dead by Daylight. I'm talking about the map. Maybe you think Dead by Daylight's boring. I don't know. I like the game. I think it's very fun. But the map of the game is boring as shit, dude. It's just all pallets. That's all it is. It's just pallets. It's just pre-dropping pallets. That's all it is. It's pallet factory. There's no skill expression. The most fun you can have on this map as Survivor is greeting pallets. And also doing the funny hole on people and fucking sitting at that like pallet that goes onto the drop down hole, have the killer swing into you, and then just fucking give him the old razzle dazzle, throw him down there. That shit's fun. There's like 2 real loops on this map, man. But regardless, it stays. I'd say it stays kind of survivor sided, pretty survivor sided, because there's just 34 safe pallets on this map, man. There's so many safe pallets. Do I think it's... where do I put it, though? What do I think it's worse than? I feel like it's just so boring to play on, man. It's so boring. Oh, man. I almost want to make another tier for this because I feel like putting it up here is not doing it justice on the fact that everyone hates this fucking map. Like, everyone hates this map. Does anyone actually like the game? Do you like the game? Maybe if you're like a Spirit Fury Enduring player, you like the game because that's just like free money for you. That's like, you know, walk through every pallet. It feels a good time. But you still have so many pallets you gotta get through, man. Damn, bro. It's tough to rate the game because of just how nutty it is. It feels like a crime against map design half the time. I do think they made it slightly better with the rework, given the fact that the upstairs is a lot more open, which is quite nice. And they left the downstairs claustrophobic, which is totally fine. Yeah, I'm gonna... Do I think it's better than Mother's Dwelling? I don't know, man. I definitely lose more games on the game than I do Bad Ham, for sure. I'm trying to think of, like, Actually, no, I don't lose that as many games on than I do on Bad Ham. I'm gonna put it here. I think it fits nice and snug right there. It looks good. Family Residence. Family Residence is not too bad. It's one of the Yamaoka maps. I think the Yamaoka maps are pretty balanced actually. They're totally fine. I have like no complaints about them. I do think the bamboo can be a little annoying, but Family Residence is pretty good. Hell, you know what? I think Family Residence earns a spot as a balanced map. I really can't find like a single thing to complain about on this map. Maybe if you're like a Huntress player, sorry about you. Sorry, bamboo exists. If you're like a range killer, sorry about you. Definitely feels a little worse to play on with range killers, but I don't know. There's nothing too egregious about this map. Main building is like whatever. It's not that impactful. The loops are okay. Both Yamaoka maps have these weird, like, I don't know what to call them. They have like it's like a pallet loop, except it's like the smallest pallet loop in the world. But somehow it's a little better than like what normally would be a shitty small pallet loop, because you drop it and it turns into like an okay pallet loop. They're like weird. They have that. They also have the Funky Town tile, which I'm a big fan of. This is the first map we're talking about that has the Funky Town tile. Only 2 of them have it. This being any of the Yamaoka maps as well as Mount Ormond. They both have it, and what I mean is they're the tiles that if you ever enter and you were wondering what the fuck is going on in this tile, it's probably a Funky Town tile. It's got a window and a pallet. It's just really confusing layout, but I think they're really fun to play on. They're fun to loop. That's a fun loop to do. My nose is fucking bugging me, man. I don't know why. I'm like super stuffed up all of a sudden. Probably from like talking for so long. Holy shit, man. Yeah. I think Family Residence is pretty balanced. I can't find much to complain about on Family Residence. Sanctum of Wrath. Like I said, Sanctum of Wrath is gonna... Did Azerov's resting place move? I think I accidentally moved Azerov's resting place. Yeah, this shit was definitely up here before. I just realized I accidentally moved this down here. I've been, like, mildly clicking on things through here, so I've probably just been, like, accidentally moving shit around. I'm sorry for that. Hopefully I'd notice if I actually moved something else around. But I totally moved that away from killer-sided. Because I do think Sanctum of Wrath is just slightly killer-sided. It's not as bad as Azerov's in terms of, like, the layout with the whole choke point and shit, given the fact that the pagoda makes it a little harder for a killer to engage in that strategy. But I do think the layout of this map definitely benefits the killer a lot more than it does the survivors. And pagoda as like a main building, it's nothing special. It's got some okay windows and a whatever palette inside of it. Pardon me. Otherwise, yeah, I think it's just a little bit killer-sided due to the layout of it. You can really lock down a 3 or 4 gen for the end of the game. If you can't tell, I'm kind of blasting through some of these just because I don't have like a lot to say. Like the Yamaoka maps are like perfectly inoffensive maps. I don't really have much to say about them. Mount Ormond. Mount Ormond, I think, is actually, unlike Lincoln Lane, which was a map that was really unbalanced, and they reworked it, and it's still unbalanced, in my opinion. Mount Ormond was very unbalanced, and I think it's fine now. I have no issues with Mount Ormond. I don't know why. I think it's perfectly fine. Like, there's some annoyances. Sometimes you can get the window upstairs on Main. That window can be closer to the staircase than further, and that can be a little annoying. Otherwise, I think my only issue with this map is how big it is. That's it. Pallet loops, there's nothing really too crazy. A lot of the pallet loops are kind of just like whatever. There's the big like snowmobile, snow machine, whatever the hell that thing's called. There's that big pallet loop that's a god loop. That's really good. But other than that, it's pretty good. I'd say it's just slightly survivor-sided due to how big it is, and I do think I think there's enough resources for the survivors to work on here, but I really don't think it's that crazy. I don't think it's anything to sneeze at, nothing to get scared of as killer anymore. That's for sure. It used to be way, 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 way worse. Now it's not as bad. So I'm gonna plop it down right there. If only for the size, kind of bumps it up to be a little more survivor-sided. Dead Dog Saloon is severely killer-sided. Actually, it's probably like right there. I'd put it in the. You want to move? You want to go in the middle there? Yeah, there you go. Dead Dog Saloon is definitely severely killer-sided. This map has a couple of issues. First and foremost, there's a spot in the map where gens just spawn too close together, man. I think this map has just like a weird distribution of generators. They could stand to like space them out a little bit. There's the area behind the gallows, including gallows generator. You can have like 3 gens literally like right next to each other, and the killer can just lock down the most insane 3 gen ever. If you get also water tower generator, that can be pretty close by too, which can make it like a really, really harsh 4 gen. Some people get really scared of Main. Main is definitely like good for the survivors, but outside of Main, a lot of the loops are concentrated. Again, I feel like the resources on this map aren't spread out properly. There's a lot of stuff that's concentrated together, but outside of that, if the killer chooses to play a specific part of the map and really lock down that just like desert area by Shack and water tower, there's not as much to work with over there. And in general, the loops here are just not, they're okay. But I do feel like there's a distinct lack of really meaningful resources here. There's some okay windows. There's some good windows, actually, I should say. But outside of that, if you start burning pallets, you're going to find out really quick that there's like not a lot to work on or work with on this map. And this map definitely gets, further into this severely killer-sided range just on the fact that the gens can be so squished together sometimes. Okay. Making the last sprint here, man. We only got a couple more maps to talk about. Midwich Elementary. What do I think about Midwich Elementary? It's an okay map. I think. Sorry, I'm yawning. I don't really think a whole lot about this map. I think it's a little annoying. There are some annoying aspects about the map. Some windows where you have to, break a breakable wall next to the window for it to be balanced, quote unquote. Otherwise, they're really strong. It's got that annoying indoor map kind of like play style of just a lot of pallets, a lot of just like pre-thrown pallet loops. But unlike the game, it's not just like a stack of fucking safe pallets. There's definitely a way you can kind of play around the pallets here on this map. And there's a bit of 50-50 to the pallets on this map. It's not just safe pallets. And if you're playing a certain killer, you know, the nurse, some shit like that, this map can be real nasty. You can tear it up on this map. Yeah, this map does get a bonus because of how, like, the due to the layout of it, the terror radius is like always a factor on this map, basically, due to like the size and the layout of it. What do I rate it? To be honest, man, part of me is saying like slightly killer and or slightly survivor sided. Definitely not balanced, but I don't think it's like this map's not in like a spot where it needs to be severely reworked, I think. Either way. Ooh, it does have that whole W issue. Yeah, it's got the long hallways. So I do think it's a good bit more survivor sided, if only for the the funny whole W hallways. I'll probably put it at like the top here just because of that. You can, on certain killers, you can spend like half the game just holding W at people, but I don't think the resources on this map are really anything to be too crazy about. Eyrie of Crows, it just got announced today that Eyrie of Crows is getting some adjustments. It's getting some changes, thank God. But I'm reviewing current Eyrie of Crows, and current Eyrie of Crows is nasty business, boy. It's real nasty. It is quite survivor-sided. The main building is quite good. You have the good window downstairs. 2 good windows downstairs, sorry. You have the window upstairs that people often forget about. You've got the pallet up there that's very decent. Not only that, the rest of the map is very, very good. It feels like there's just pallets and the pallets and the pallets on this map, man. It feels like you're never running out of pallets on this map. The area with Shack by it has like, it's got that pallet next to it. It's got the tile on the other side. It's got pallets on both sides, actually, I'm pretty sure. You can sometimes get pallets on both sides. Into the tile. Into more filler pallets. Yeah, this map's just got a lot of resources. It's very hard to navigate as killer due to its like kind of size and layout. Definitely just not one that, you know, feels good to play on as killer. That main building is quite obnoxious. And it always feels like there's quite a lot of resources for the survivors to work with. And we haven't talked about this on any of the maps yet. Dude, hook spawns on this map fucking blow, man. Hook spawns blow on this map. Sometimes you just get the worst hook spawns, man. I feel like I'm hooking people on the same hook over and over and over again on this map because I got no other hooks, man. I got nowhere else to hook a dude. I gotta hook him on the same spot. RPD East and West. I really like Raccoon City Police Department now. It's really good. I don't know. I think they really did a good job splitting this map in half. I think it's like the most fun indoor map to play on. It's got the most diverse gameplay. I'm trying to think. How would I rank these? Let me think. Thinking it through in my head. I think RPD West. First of all, I like playing on East more than I like playing on West. I don't like West as much. But RPD West, I think, is actually slightly killer-sided. Probably a little more than Temple of Purgation. Because RPD West has the other outside courtyard. Like, okay, RPD East is slightly survivor-sided. It's got the helicopter area, and I think the helicopter area is much better than... It's got better resources than the Star's office and that outside area that means fucking nothing at all. There's that outside area with the exit gate on RPD West that just like, you know, who cares about that spot? That there's like nothing out there. It's like you sometimes get like a shitty pallet out there. Otherwise, there's literally nothing there. So yeah, that's my opinion on the RPDs. They're really good indoor maps. I think they did a really good job making these maps actually interesting to play on. There's good resources. There's fun loops to play. I particularly like playing. There's the Welcome Leon room. That's got a cool loop to play on. It's got those 2 windows plus the pallet. You've got the other room across from that, which I don't know the official name of. I've always referred to it as Post Helicopter, because in actual Resident Evil 2 Remake, that's where you go after the helicopter crashes. But it's that room. That room's also got a really cool loop layout, 2 windows with an okay palette. Yeah, it's good, well-designed map. Honestly, like, very kudos to Behavior. I think they did a good job making what was otherwise one of the worst maps in the entire game actually more fun to play on. Yeah, I'll throw it down. Throw it down right there. 2 more maps, man. Just 2 more maps. We're like breaking an hour and a half here. That's like the longest video I think I've ever made in the history of videos. And I also just got done recording a podcast today too. So I've been doing a lot of talking today. So I'll be excited to spend the rest of my evening doing nothing and zoning the fuck out. Garden of Joy. Fuck this map, dude. Garden of Joy can suck my cock. I get this map all the time, man, when I'm playing Killer, and it's just like the worst shit, dude. This shit, I hate this map. Oh my god. This map is probably the worst Killer map in the game, in my opinion. Main building. That's where to start. First of all, the size. It's huge. It's so massive. The map is mega massive. 2, main building. You've got a really good window upstairs. You've got a really good window downstairs. You've got another good window upstairs that people always forget about. It's in the back that people literally just forget about it all the time. It's the one not near the generator. You've got a really good pallet downstairs, outside the house, and you can sometimes get an okay pallet spawn downstairs. You've got the gazebo window loop, which is pretty decent if you pull it from the right angle. You've got all of the really chunky pallet loops on this map. You've got Shack, which connects to a pallet, which connects to 2 pallets actually on each side. The one side connects to a tile, and that tile also connects to a window pallet loop, essentially a quasi jungle gym, basically. Just low wall version of it, if you will. It's over by the motel sign, I think. On the other side of the map, you've got that weird kind of junk window. That's whatever, who cares? But you got the tile out there by the exit gate that spawns sometimes. And you've got like 2 pallets near that. That shit connects to main. This map's just got everything, dude. It's got everything connects together. It's huge. It's hard to navigate. The generators are spread out. You're uphill battle if you're playing on this map. I genuinely think that this is probably the worst map in the game for Killer. There's just a whole lot you've got to dig through. You've got to carve through this shit a lot. And if the survivors are playing well, it can be a really, really tough time trying to win on this map. So if you do win on this map, pat yourself on the back. It definitely always feels good. And it always feels shitty when you got to play on this map. Because I do it all the time. I get this map all the time. I don't know why. At least it looks good. It looks nice. I do like it visually. It's a thumbs up there. Shattered Square. Dude, I don't know what to think about Shattered Square. It's our newest map. Kind of feels like Pallet City sometimes. I will say it feels like Pallet City sometimes. It's a lot of pallets on this map. What do I gotta say about this map? It's not going there. It's gonna stay there for right now. There's a lot of pallets on this map. It feels like you're digging through so many resources. Main building is okay. It's got that really good pallet in main building. That's essentially a god pallet there. It's got the whatever window, or it's got the okay window, I should say, up top. Pretty good window, actually. I don't know why I said okay. It's a pretty good window. You've got shack on this map. You've got some decent window loops with the one, like, fucking, I don't know what to call that, like the headsman area. That thing, the headsman podium, that's got that window there. That's pretty okay. The map is big. The map is very big, and it's very, very spread out in terms of, or what I should say is, you can like see across the map. You can see the killer coming from like a mile away on this map. So it really sucks if you're playing a stealth killer. I'm gonna put it up here. It probably is like survivor sided. I don't think it's like severely survivor sided. You can definitely like win on this. You can win on any of these maps as killer, right? But I don't think it's like severely survivor sided. But it's just got a lot of pallets on it. A lot of junky filler pallets. It's got some okay structures. I think one of the biggest, most annoying things is the fact that it's just so open. You can get seen from like a mile away coming towards someone. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be every map. We broke them all down. I've been talking for an hour and a half. Holy shit, bro. That was something. I hope you enjoyed our time together. Here's the tier list. What do you think about it? Do you think I'm wrong? Maybe I'm wrong about some things. I probably am. That's all right. I gave my honest opinion on these, how I felt about all the maps. I figured it was going to be kind of like a dumbbell curve, like they're like a weird like curve like this, where obviously a lot more maps would be survivor sided. But that's just how the cookie crumbles when you're playing Dead by Daylight. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see you later. Peace out.